Hey guys, the Explorer of Horror here, Horrorboy465, and today continuing our reviews on the Alien franchise. And this DVD right here is a triple feature, bare bones, really nothing to this triple pack here. And I remember I got this a while ago, and I still haven't gotten a replacement for it. But yeah, continuing our reviews on the Alien movies, and today we're talking about a film that is very special in this franchise. Because Terminator has Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Rambo has Rambo First Blood Part 2, and the Alien franchise has Aliens. This time, it's war. And Aliens is a massive movie. This movie is so epic, so awesome. I remember when I was a kid and I seen Alien for the first time, thinking that it was a scary movie. I thought it was horrifying the first time I seen it. And then I remember looking in this DVD pack and I'm like, I wonder what Aliens is about. This looks interesting. Aliens? This time it's war. There's more than one. What are they going to do with this movie? And I will say, these first three movies right here, they're all directed by great directors. Of course, you got, like I mentioned in the first movie's review, you got Ridley Scott directing that movie. Big fan of Ridley Scott. And then you got James Cameron directing this movie. And of course, James Cameron has done Titanic. He's done all kinds of movies. He's done Avatar, and among many upon many of other movies. I think he also directed Terminator 2 Judgment Day, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, he did. He directed Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So that's two sequels that he's done that he's made, a little bit more better than the original. To me, this one's definitely, and in a much more different way, this movie steps up the original. There's only very few cases, and not just horror film history, but in film history, where a film has upped the ante past the original. Um, and James Cameron's made both of those. And then, of course, can't forget the director of Alien 3, David Fincher, who has made Seven, among of other great movies. So you got Ridley Scott, James Cameron, David Fincher directing the third movie, Alien 3. So the first three movies are all three made by great directors, and Aliens is a classic. Aliens is an absolute masterpiece. And the special edition is such a great version to watch because all the added scenes make the movie so much more awesome. It came out in 1986, quite a while after the first Alien, almost a decade after the first Alien. Gets an 8.4 on IMDb. And, of course, you've got Sigourney Weaver coming back, but you've also got a great cast of characters. You got Carrie Henn playing Newt. You got Michael Biehn playing Corporal Hicks. You got Paul Reiser, you got Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, rest in peace to Bill Paxton, Al Matthews, Jeanette Goldstein, William Hope. You've got Rico Ross, Mark Rolston, Al Matthews. You've got a lot of really great actors. You got a lot of great characters. You got a really awesome storyline in this film. You've got plenty of action, plenty of horror elements, an awesome atmosphere. But before I get into all that, let's discuss the story real quick. Basically, at the end of Alien, Sigourney Weaver's character, Ripley, goes into pretty much hypersleep. And she wakes up, I think it's about 100, 200 years later. She's been, not 200 years later, she's been in hypersleep for over 57 years. And she wakes up, and she's on this ship, and she's in shock, she has PTSD, and I really like that aspect of the movie where they're having her deal with that. And, of course, she goes back to this company that she was working for and kind of tells people what happened about the xenomorphs and stuff like that. And then, of course, some scientists are interested. They want to go back to where the Nostromo is. They want to go back to that planet and collect some samples for science and see what makes these xenomorphs tick. Of course, Ripley doesn't want to do that because she just survived that attack and she doesn't want to go back to it. She wants to go back and eliminate these things. And pretty much from there on, they're trying to eliminate the rest of these xenomorphs. And pretty much they get Ripley. Finally, they end up convincing Ripley eventually to join the team. And her and these Marines are sent out. These Colonial Marines are sent out to this planet. You got a great cast of characters that are all likable. They're all really cool. Lance Henderson is awesome in this movie as Bishop. You know, Burke is cool. Bill Paxton as Hudson is great. You know, Hicks, Newt, which is the character you meet later on. All great characters. You got some great scenes. You got the knife trick scene where Bishop is going like a million miles an hour with a knife in this guy's hand, and then he's like, "It wasn't funny, man. It's not funny." Is Bill Paxton's character. Then you've got, you know, the Marines kind of teasing each other. You got that great scene with Bill Paxton. We got sharp knives. We've got guns. We've got explosives. We've got grenades, rockets. We've got all this. We are the ultimate badasses. You know, it's such a great scene. That's another thing that makes this movie so awesome is the characters. The characters and their interactions and how Ripley is kind of trying to keep this team together and trying to warn them about these creatures. And when they get to this area, of course, there's xenomorphs everywhere. It's pretty much a breeding ground. And when they get in there, the Marines get wiped out. They get stranded on that planet, and they got to figure out what to do from there on. You got millions of xenomorphs to deal with. You've got a character named Newt, who is a little girl who survived with no weapons and no training, by herself, against these aliens, kind of helps Ripley. Because Ripley, you found out, had a daughter, but she died because when Ripley was in the hyper sleep, she slept through her daughter's life pretty much, and, you know, her daughter ended up passing away. So she kind of takes Newt in as her new daughter, maybe. Newt's parents get killed from the xenomorphs, and she kind of just takes Newt in. And it's a great scene. And that's why this special edition is probably one of the best cuts of films you can see. Because most time when you get alternate takes or alternate cuts or director's cuts or producer's cuts, most of the time they're not that good. Like for me, the Halloween 6 producer's cut is hyped a lot, but when I read up on it and I look up scenes from that, I'm just seeing some ridiculous stuff, like Michael Myers being stopped by rocks. That happens in that. Michael Myers gets stopped by magical stones. And people are like, "Oh, it's a great cut, it's a great cut, the producer's cut is awesome." I'm just like, there's less gore, a larger runtime, there's less inventive kills, there's more cult, more Thorn plotline, and Michael Myers doesn't get killed like he does in the original cut. He gets stopped by these magical stones. But yet that producer's cut is hailed to high heaven as to being one of the best cuts out there. Personally, I don't see why. Personally, when I hear about that cut, and it gets more hoopla than this cut does, where you find out extra scenes with Ripley dealing with PTSD and her daughter passing away, and extra, whether it be action scenes, character moments, whatever, it's in this. To me, the special edition of this movie, this cut right here, is such a great cut. If you're going to see Aliens, I recommend the special edition. And pretty much from there on, it's about Ripley and the rest of these Colonial Marines battling these xenomorphs. Of course, people get knocked off one by one, and then you get to that awesome ending, which I'll mention in a second. But with this movie, I feel like why this movie is a big step up from the original Alien is that, yes, it's not much of a horror film, and people have said that for years. They said, man, it's good, but it's not much of a horror film. And it really isn't. But for what it is, an amazing action film, and that's coming from a guy who's more of a horror fan. Now, lately I've been watching a lot of DC and a lot of Marvel to catch up on some stuff. I'll watch occasional action movies here and there, but I'm not an action addict. Like, I don't watch action movies 24/7. This is one of my favorite action movies. It is. Alien is one of my favorite horror films. This is one of my favorite action movies. Yeah, it's got a little bit of horror in there, but this is much about the action, the special effects, the explosions, the guns, and Marines and badass lines, and Ripley being just a badass. Like, Ripley in this movie is probably at her peak of badassness in this film. And, you know, that is just, and there's character arcs that are amazing in this movie, like how Ripley goes from someone who's struggling with this, you know, after surviving this incident, to rising up, being strong, fighting this larger than life thing off. It becomes a great character moment. And you know how Newt survives throughout the entire movie with no weapons and no training, um, as Hicks says. And the everything is upgraded in this movie. The effects are upgraded. The xenomorphs look great in this movie. This movie has my favorite xenomorph effects because of how they look. They really make you feel like there's just millions upon millions of xenomorphs that keep coming and attacking, and they're everywhere in this movie. And it made it a very good enemy. The xenomorph in this movie is a really good enemy because yeah, you got guns, but there's hundreds upon thousands of these xenomorphs everywhere. And I really liked that. And I liked how the movie built up to this final act with Ripley going into where the mother xenomorph is. Pretty much the big mama xenomorph. And she goes in there and saves Newt. And she's shooting these eggs and blowing the eggs up and blowing everything up and flamethrower. They get on this ship and they get out of there, you know. And then that great ending where Bishop gets killed by this queen alien and Ripley gets the suit on. This, I forget what it's called, but it's this robotic suit. And that classic line that's always going to stay with this franchise is, "Get away from her, you bitch!" And then she's crashing in and fighting the Queen Alien Xenomorph. Great special effects in that scene. You know, hitting the emergency airlock and sending the alien outer space. And pretty much killing it. Bishop is still alive. She pretty much gets Hicks, Newt, and Bishop, and her, and they all go into hypersleep, and then it leads into Alien 3. And like I said, man, this movie has a lot of stuff going for it. It has an awesome look to it. This movie focuses much more on darker atmosphere, more blue lighting, dark lighting, great sets, great cinematography, awesome direction by James Cameron. James Cameron knows what he's doing. He's a great director. Awesome script, awesome ideas. The Colonial Marines are all badasses. They're not throwaway characters. They're awesome. Ripley is awesome. Newt is a great character. Bishop is kind of showing that maybe these androids aren't all bad. They kind of give Ripley a little bit of hope. I like that story. I like how I love the music. The music is amazing. And after Aliens came out, you heard music from this movie in almost every action trailer from the 80s and 90s. Look it up. Look up action trailers from the 80s and 90s. You can't tell me there's not music from Aliens in those movies. You can't tell me. I've seen 5 or 6 movies where there's music from this movie in that trailer. From a whole different action movie, but it has Alien score. That is how you know. There's films that try to imitate Aliens with the action and certain ideas. I think it's a very influential film. I think it's a very important film in the series. I think it's a very important film from the 80s because it shows that you can make this massive movie. Of course, the budget was increased. It made a lot of money. It's a rock and roll roller coaster of a ride. Has a lot of great scenes, classic dialogue. I mean, what more can I say about Aliens? I mean, it's like Dawn of the Dead. It's like Rambo First Blood Part 2. You know, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. You know, these are all sequels I feel like have proved themselves to be, you know, way far and beyond better than, or at least a step up from the first movie. Because even though I love this movie to death, I will say that I also love the first movie. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't really know much more I can say about Aliens. Aliens is a great film. It's a classic action film. Great lines, great dialogue, great everything. If you want to see a badass movie, check out Aliens. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review on Aliens, and I'll see you guys in a second for my review on Alien 3. See you guys there. Tweez! Tweez. Peace!